Hello and welcome to our special spoilercast discussion of The Last of Us, episode 3, long time. This week I want to shout out, directed by Peter Hall. Directed It's a Sin. Love that. Really good show. This episode is the Bill and Frank episode. I mean, let's stop beating around the bush. It's a Bill and Frank episode. It's bringing out the homophobes on Twitter full force. I saw someone write something before somewhere where they're like, "Oh, that's it. Took 3 episodes to go woke, and I'm out." It's like, how good? What do you think of this week's episode, Ash?
Yeah, it was really good. Obviously, all the hype around this episode, everything you'd read about The Last of Us from people who'd seen it early was episode 3 was the episode that you had to wait to see. And sometimes when people hype these things up this much, your expectations are too high and it doesn't quite live up to them. But I think this lived up to expectations. It's a great episode of television. Obviously, it diverts from what they did in the video game in a beautiful way. I'm sure some people will be disappointed they didn't get the fun Ellie Bill banter and that kind of stuff, but I think what they told here was a beautiful story about love, and that's kind of the theme that they've been running with for the show, of like how love affects people in different ways, and how necessarily it isn't good all the time and that kind of stuff. But this was a very sweet, lovely story about a doomsday survivalist finding love.
It's they're taking that line, the test line, save the ones you love, and whatever else the sort of running, save who you can. They're running with that. So I guess it's like the theme. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. It's, not a dry eye in the room if you're watching in a cinema. Yeah. I would say that's where you're at with this one. But not only is it like this is 100% it's improved. Like this is not something you can do in the game. Telling the story, like trying to fit the narrative that they give here into the game wouldn't have worked. But Bill in the game is fine. It's like a fun little tangent, like him and Ellie's banter is like fun, but Bill as a character was very one note, sort of like, oh, it was a crazy dude and whatever else. And Frank, the whole reveal about Frank in the game with him just hanging himself because he ended up hating Bill, and they tease that that was romantically together, but never there's never actually, I guess, anything official, even though everyone knows it. So this is 100% improvement, and you just get, I think it's almost crazy. Like this could be the show, like not Bill and Frank, but like you could almost
stories like these.
Yeah, like these little stories across the world could be the show, or like sort of how it works. But yeah, because you have stuff all Joel and Ellie in this, but it's definitely the best episode of the series so far, which is crazy to say. But Nick Offerman and Murray Bartlett both give just, I don't know, like, yeah, I know everyone's like ringing the Emmy bell, but I can't disagree. It's hard to disagree if on these two parts. Would it be nominated for a guest appearance? Yes. Whatever it would be. Like,
I don't know. Yeah,
I think that's what it is usually. If it's like
I would assume so.
Thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Unless they consider, because it is one part of a 10 episode run, whether they get supporting, I don't know.
They could get in for supporting. So, they're both absolutely phenomenal in this. I think there's just so many little things. I remember I was actually laughing the moment when he saves Frank, and when they're sitting at the dinner table, and then Frank's over like wiping the dust off that one part of the shelf or whatever, and then Nick Offerman, when he walks out, Bill's face and the way they hang on that for so long, as he's like looking at him like,
yeah,
and then Frank goes and sits back down, and he's still just, what the fuck were you doing? Like, it's just it's just so many things. And then the dialogue, the fucking line, the other line that got me is like, You're a crazy person. You think the whole government's Nazis because they are Nazis. Well, they weren't then, but they are now. It's just the delivery on some of these lines and stuff. Like, you can write it, but just if it wasn't, it's just the delivery. I swear it's just so good. All their little moments, like the moment, like the strawberry moment, like there's such a sweet strawberry moment, and just there's I don't know, there's a million things. You just point out all the little things. It's sort of crazy. You forget you're watching The Last of Us, and it's just this hour long or hour 15, whatever it is. It's just this romance. It's just like a romance in the apocalypse, and it starts out quite funny too. Like, and there are all these small moments, but even just Bill at the start, where he's like, "Anything, not today, new world over motherfuckers," or like, hideaway and all this sort of stuff. So, but it's the change. I don't understand. I don't get it. Like, for the people who are complaining, like, I feel like the loss of Ellie and Bill's banter for what we got is such a gain. Like, it's not. I just don't get. I cannot see that being worth it. Like, having them, like the major changes, having it so because they start arguing in that scene where they skip ahead 3 years. And I'm like, okay, we're hinting towards the eventual Frank leaving and. Like they whatever else, but like they're just having ups and downs in their relationship and getting all together, and then the whole like I want to have friends, and then that of course turns out to be Joel and Tess, and like everything just makes so much more sense and works so much better this way. Like even thematically, like like I love how they never show Frank and Bill at the end in the bed, because that would have just been like.
Yeah,
just it would have been like
a knife to the heart.
It's just it's just like going for shock. Like that would have been just going for shock or whatever. Like the lovely lingering shot of the window, like pulling back into the room. You know you're in the room with them. You know they're in there. Like they're fucking rotting corpses. You don't need to show it, but also then tying that into having again the window, Last of Us, the window thing. Like I feel like that all sort of come together really well as well. So. When Bill got shot, I was like, fuck, they're switching it. Bill's dying and Frank's gonna survive. I was like,
yeah, I mean, that's the interesting thing, that obviously it played on you knowing what's going to happen. You thinking you know what's going to happen as people who played the video games, and thinking at the end of this, we're going to have Bill, the Bill we know from the video games.
Yeah.
And then obviously going in a completely different direction. But I watched the guys over at Heroes Reforged who haven't played the video games watching through this episode, and like them being suspicious of Frank the entire way through, because obviously the romance is like it does come together very quickly. I think that's the only thing that maybe, you know, there's an element of, is Frank playing Bill like to get protection or gear or whatever. I feel like
at the start, initially where he's like, I'll stay a couple more days, I think it's like very much like, I don't think like you're supposed to feel like in that moment they love each other. It's just like they're two gay men who have found like each other, and I'm sure they're happy to have a moment, no different than a woman and a man happy to find each other. And you know, like if you have like felt the touch of a woman or whatever, like it's the same sort of like the human nature sort of kicking in at that stage. So, but then when they skip ahead 3 years, it's just, I feel like you're just supposed to be like, well,
you're like, oh, okay, well,
they fell in love. You know, it's as normal things happen in real life. People get together, they have a one night stand, it turns into they get married.
Yeah, it was just a beautiful episode with lots of beautiful moments. And then obviously you get, I did love like Bill prepping, like obviously, in the games, he's just in the random neighborhood. You know, it's not this compound that he's built here.
They call it like Bill's Town in the game. Like the chapter's called Bill's Town.
Yeah, but it's not like fenced off and is like a beautiful.
No, but he has like all these cars. He does have the cars like piled up, and he's got the traps everywhere. Like it's not to this, but I guess the idea of him blocking it off and sort of making it his little area to protect is Kingdom, the same. It's like carried through.
I'm sure this was cheaper as well than
I'm sure
doing what they did in the game. But yeah, seeing the slow development, I guess. Also, it's very sad. Obviously, you see Bill shot and you think, oh, he's going to die. And then when you see them next, it's Frank who's the one who's closer to death.
Yeah, they cut from Bill's
they jump
eyes,
like 10 years, right?
Sim looking like he's dead. They jump ahead 10 years, and then, Frank's in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
That's the next shot you see. So
yeah, so that's pretty depressing. And obviously, the reveal, like, I'm done.
It's cancer is what I took it as.
Yeah, of course. It could be any disease. I mean, it doesn't really matter.
Well, I guess it doesn't matter, but yeah, because he just says like, there was no cure for this prior to
before.
Yeah, so.
Was it? Oh, we're just going to wait for the door-to-door MRL assessment.
Yeah.
And yeah, obviously, that moment of him talking it through and like him telling me what he wants, and I think the line that's kind of stuck with me is, "Love me the way I want you to," which he says, which in another context could be a pretty toxic thing to say. You know what I mean? But in this clearly loving relationship where they have a lot of respect for each other, and I think it's a very beautiful,
Yeah, I can't see most people taking the way this plays out negatively. Like, it's especially if you're like this.
I mean, he did ask him to kill him, so I mean, there is that element of it.
Yeah, well, I guess it depends.
And, like, obviously, we're living in a world where assisted death is still like it's a touchy subject.
Some people agree and don't agree. So I guess depending on how you feel about assisted death, maybe that affects how you feel about this episode. So
yeah, but
it's easy to dying. He's an incurable disease in the apocalypse. Pretty fucked up scenario to be in. Like,
yeah, it's a much easier step to take than it is in the current world when where you'll get in trouble if you help people.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. And then the ladder, Bill leaves Joel. I thought that's fantastic. The trust in Bella Ramsey to read that and not cut to Nick Offerman doing the VO was what got me. She started reading, and I fully expected them to transition to VO to fully sell the moment. So the choice to rely on Bella Ramsey being able to sell that and still have the same emotional toil that it needed to, I think was a choice. Worked 100%, but I feel like that's your full faith in your actors and actresses and whatever else at that point, because the typical thing is to cut to the more seasoned actor to do the VO and sell the emotional resonance of that moment. So it's just her, but
just the he
and all that sort of stuff, and then just stopping on the use it, protect, like all that sort of stuff, and again, I think Pedro Pascal's best performance so far in this episode, if only for that 15-20 seconds where he goes outside, where I could not tell if he was about to scream at the sky, go punch something. Like, it's just such a 15-20 seconds of what is he about to do? Like, and you can see the emotional toil on his face. So I felt that was definitely again such a brilliant performance from Pedro Pascal in that moment.
Yeah.
Anything else from this episode? Finish shout out.
I mean, obviously we kind of skipped over the opening of this episode of you do get bits. Well, for a start, no cold open, which makes sense for this episode because the whole episode was a flashback. Yeah. But then you do have Joel and Ellie on the road. They have that conversation where Bill is like, Ellie's like, "Hey, Tess's death, not my fault. Pretty harsh, but needed to be said." And Joel kind of explaining different things to Ellie about the world, how
confirming the flour sugar thing.
Yeah, kind of confirming that. Yeah. Ruling out monkeys.
Yeah.
Taking a dig at a government that wants to gaslight people and how a pandemic happened. Yeah. But then you also obviously they set it up with the shot of all the bodies that got all the dead bodies of people who got murdered. Yeah. Which is cool transition. But then you also get the scene in the shopping center.
They do. I forgot about that. They do So the cool thing there, I completely forgot about this. This is a good point. The best thing in that scene, I'll tell you what it is. It's not her going and fucking with that It's not her going and fucking with the clicker. It's the fact that Joel says this place is being cleared out. And you know one thing, did you realize what Ellie grabbed?
No, it's
tampons. Tampons, which I thought was such a good bit to imply that like it's mostly men going around cleaning out these areas, or it's like not these important things that they would take. The one thing she manages to find on the shelf is fucking tampons. So that was good.
That's pretty fun. You could find other uses for tampons in the.
Oh, I'm sure you can, blood nose and whatever else. But
everybody's getting shot. You could use those pretty solid bandage.
Yeah,
just get some tape. But yeah, obviously, the pop of her fangirling about Mortal Kombat 2.
Melania eats people's faces. It's fucking awesome.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a fake. There was a fake game in the original game. They didn't have like a actual video game reference.
Yeah.
HBO, Warner Brothers. They can mention Mortal Kombat.
That makes sense. Now that you say HBO and Warner Brothers, it makes sense. Why it would be Mortal Kombat?
Yes,
obviously they own Mortal Kombat. Yeah. But yeah, obviously her like messing around with the clickers. I think the key thing there was it didn't bleed. That was for her. That was a point of difference. Like she could cut it and there's no blood.
She bleeds.
She bleeds, but then it's also not. She knows for sure it's not human in any way.
Yeah,
and doesn't feel any remorse stabbing it. The other key thing I think from this episode is she ends up with a gun after asking Joel several times for a gun.
Yeah.
She sneaks one. I think it's the one Frank had it when he went out to try and help Bill in the.
Yes, it's in the.
That's the gun.
That one. Yeah.
Also, that was how messed up was that? The fence, like all these people raiders trying to get in.
I mean, I didn't think it was messed up. They fucking deserved it. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah,
it was fucking cool.
Yeah.
I know how that gun's going to come in. I can picture the scene from the game where I reckon that's
okay. Yeah,
how they.
I can't. It's been a while since I've watched it, so. Yeah, and obviously her excitement of just being in a car, which is bizarre.
So he's like, "Put the seatbelt on." She's like, "The fucking what?" The what now?
Yeah, and then bringing the music in again and like explaining why the song played in the first episode of Frank having like this playlist that would. Just
if they hadn't entered the lost code for 2 weeks,
it would play.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a few weeks since Ashley died. So, and what? And then like the song being the song that they sang to each other earlier in the episode, being the song that ends the episode.
Yeah, the one in the car.
And Joel being very excited about it, and Ellie being
yeah, he's like, it's bad enough.
Yeah.
That ain't been quite.
And then being very excited about showers as well. I mean, everyone excited about showers.
Joel wasn't really that excited, but he had one. But Ellie and Frank were ecstatic. So Frank's whole, can I have 5 more minutes? Hot water.
You can imagine, in a verse like that. Like, again, like Frank, pulling off, Bill pulling off like that doomsday prepper thing, and like setting up the gas, getting Home Depot. That boat was really handy.
Yeah. So maybe buy a boat, not for taking it out on weekends, but just in case,
Just in case you need it's better than trailers.
Yeah. A bit more.
How many survivalists do you think this will inspire?
Oh, it isn't going to inspire anyone. They're just going to be like, anyone that's already doing that is going to be like, see? Fucking told you.
I knew it.
I knew it. This is what happens. This episode's free.
Okay.
I'm doing good.
And then if I prep hard enough, I'll find love.
Yeah. Prep hard enough, find love. That's a good point.
Just got to find enough build enough traps to trap somebody to fall in love with.
Trap someone in a hole and then make them fall in love with you. Really, this episode's quite dark. So
it is. And we were talking about there was speculation before the series came out. Was there going to be any sex scenes? Who would have guessed? Kind of.
Yeah. Not with the characters you would have expected, but yeah.
Yeah.
Could have got a Joel and Tess one, but sorry. Yeah, anything else? No, I think that's.
No, I think obviously beautiful episode. I think the best way I've seen someone sum it up is it's crazy that this is like the first 5 minutes of Up, the story.
Yeah, I saw that. I think the first person tweeted. Yeah,
it's crazy that you could have put this in a cinema, and I think people would have gotten paid money to go see this. This is fantastic.
Yeah, it's nearly
episode of television.
So
excellent story, beautifully told.
Very, very beautifully told. The one I've seen the very smallest people criticize it for like queer baiting and all this sort of stuff. I disagree.
How's it queer baiting when they're gay?
I don't know. Or just using the trauma.
Is it because they're not gay actors?
Or maybe that's why. I don't know. Are we sure Murray Bartlett's not gay? Are we sure? I know Nick Offerman's not, but
we don't know his full sexuality.
That's a good point. Murray Bartlett.
Assuming people.
Murray Bartlett was 100% played a gay character in The White Lotus. So just saying, every time I watch him in something, he's a gay dude. So maybe he's the representation here. Cool. That'll do it for this week's spoiler discussion of The Last of Us. Long time. Let us know what you thought of the episode, of course. Explosionhour.com/Twitter, explosionhour.com/Discord. Come talk to us. Otherwise, check out your regular episode of Platinum Explosion on this podcast feed, and we'll be back next week discussing episode 4. That's going to be titled something. Goodbye.
Something.